what we'll do is we'll start off with recruiting questions first. We'll go to the phone, and after that, we'll take questions with regard to our opener against Binghamton on Friday night. So, Christian, do you want to start with the question, please?
Sure. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Good.
I just wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about Rex and what you think he'll bring to the program.
Well, we're excited to have him. First of all, he's an amazing athlete. He's extremely athletic. Comes from a great high school program, playing for Gary McKnight out there at Mater Dei. I am really thrilled to have someone from the Mater Dei program. All they do is win out there. But he's that kind of wing guard that has a great feel for the game, has the ability to slash and finish around the basket because of his athletic ability, solid shooter who will only get better. He's an excellent defender, can really move his feet and defend, and an amazingly competitive kid. We'll get some strength, we'll get some pounds on him. He's a little lean right now, like a lot of young guys we get, but given the background and where he played and being accustomed to winning, very excited to have him in our program.
And how about Matt? I mean, how important was it to get him on board when you guys were able to get him on board?
Well, it was great to have him commit during the July period. You know, to have him and Elijah both commit while we're out there recruiting gave us, direction on who to look at the rest of the summer. We've been recruiting Matt Ryan for a long time. He was out last year with the hip issues. I'd say he's about 95% back from that. Expect full recovery. But I don't think there's a better shooter in the class. No one got to see him much in the last year, so people have forgotten about him a little bit. But what makes him also, such a potent shooter is that he's 6'8". He shoots over the top of people. We've had a lot of great shooters in my tenure here. He'll be right there with any of them.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Mike, can you do the same thing for Elijah? Just kind of what
Yeah, I think with Elijah, a lot of reminiscent of Ty Nash, a feel for the game frontline guy. You love the fact that he's got the body ready to play as a freshman because he's 6'7", maybe almost 6'8" now, but he's about 225, 230. So physically put together, but a really good feel for the game. The thing that really impressed me this summer was how great a passer he is. He can really see the floor and pass the ball. When those guys were here for their visit, the three of them, Connaughton kept saying all he talked about was Burns from the two pickup games they played. But very Ty Nash-like, a frontline guy. He can step out, face up. He can rebound because he's physical. But, man, does he know how to play. He really can pass the basketball.
Mike, when you joined the ACC, you wanted to open up new recruiting avenues. Did that include California?
Yeah, not so much. I wasn't really thinking California. We've been thinking more the Southeast, and we've done more down there, spent more time down there. But, this is a kid we really followed. We followed Rex for a while, followed him through the year. We wondered at times last year, would he really ever leave the West Coast? And I've always tried to be very realistic about the time we spend out West because we've invested at times, and at the end of the day, they just won't leave the West Coast. That guy named Klay Thompson was one of them, so I'm really always guarded. I think Martin Inglesby did a good job of saying stay on this one because this one could pop. And I think there's really a connection to Notre Dame. There's an interesting family connection, too. It's talk about a small world. Rex's grandmother and my mother taught in the Montgomery College Physical Education Department in Rockville, Maryland for about 5 years in the 70s. Rex's father is a Rockville guy. I'm a Rockville guy. He played at St. John's, which is DeMatha's rivalry. Now, he's younger than me. We never played at the same time. But I think a little bit of that Rockville connection helped with this one.
How do you keep an eye on what's going on? Like you said, the program out there, Mater Dei, is highly successful. Keep an eye out there, and maybe we'll go out there, maybe we won't.
Yeah,
how do you know when it's right?
Right, you're just really selective about it. We'll recruit guys hard, and then you just want to make decisions on how you're spending your time at the end of the day. And we felt, in the spring, I felt let's keep recruiting them, but will he really leave the West? As we got into July, I really felt strongly that this is somebody that would come to us. He's very open. One of the things that was a big attraction here was the ACC. You know, playing in the ACC. His dad grew up an ACC guy. Him and Dad and I grew up Maryland fans, you know, in Rockville, Maryland, watching ACC basketball. That was a lot of our conversations. So the ACC was a very powerful draw.
Learning in the ACC in year one, how much did you or have you adjusted the type of player you want to target based on what you've seen out of the conference?
Yeah, I mean, we're not really changing, you know, our recruiting philosophy. I mean, we're going to need really good players in this league, and we're not necessarily making wholesale changes to our style of play. I think with these three kids, you get back to a basketball IQ and a really good feel for the game. Like, all three of them can really pass. And that's the one thing we've been able to do here and move the ball and have that feel for the game. Rex, what was really attractive, he's an amazing defender. A little bit like Vastoria. You know, you can put him on anybody and he just doesn't get beat because he can move those feet. Burns being a physical rebounder you love. And, you know, you always need a good shooter, whether you're playing in the Big East or the ACC. And our program has really benefited from guys that can stretch the defense. Matt Ryan stretches it at a distance we haven't seen in a while. And he's 6'8", shoots over. He can shoot over the top of people. So that's a heck of a weapon that we're getting.
It's a similar situation to last year where you want to look in the spring to monitoring the transfer wire, monitoring high school seniors, maybe adding a big guy.
Yeah, you talking about this coming up this year?
This upcoming
Yeah, this coming year. You know, you got a scholarship. You know, you can play with. You know, if we're always exploring the transfer wire. Nothing really presented itself. We actually chased a few last spring. Nothing presented itself. Would something present itself here at Christmas? Open mind to that. Certainly in the spring, open mind to that. The nice thing is that we had 2 committed in July, and Rex shortly thereafter at the Michigan weekend. I've been really able to work on juniors and really turn our attention to juniors, and so I feel we've got a good start on the junior class.
Mike, how did you stick with Matt through the hip injury? I mean, he hasn't played competitive ball in a long time. How did you kind of balance that?
Yeah, well, that's a concern because, you know, the one thing I did is I went right to Doc Yergler, and I said, here's the issue. They're shutting the kid down. I think it was right after Christmas. Maybe it was right before Christmas. Like, I love the kid. I think he's a great fit for us, the whole bit. You know, what's the prognosis? He said, don't worry about it. That's full recovery, labrum surgery on both hips, full recovery. He said, Mike, I would continue to recruit him. Certainly, he got a chance to look at Matt when he got here in September on the visit. Doc said, he looks fine. So I just wanted to make sure. But we probably were one of the few programs that stayed with him. Everybody else kind of faded a little bit, and he was, you know, off the circuit. But I do believe if he played, you know, not that we hang our hat on all these ratings, but I think he would be rated a lot different if he played this summer, and our competition probably would have been a lot different.
Curious, big picture, how difficult is it to find that type of shooter in this day and age?
Yeah. Well, you know, we've been able to find them, and they find us a little bit because shooters know they can let it rip here, you know. So I think when guys that can shoot the ball are making their list, you know, when we come in and talk to them and show them tape of Matt Carroll, David Graves, Chris Quinn, Kyle McElharney, Colin Falls, you know, we go down the line with them, Abramitis, you know, the beat goes on. I'm able to show a 5-minute highlight film of our system, and guys are like, God dang, they really do take advantage of guys who stretch the floor. You know, it didn't hurt that he was Irish Catholic either.
When you project some of these guys for next year, do you see them instant impact develop for a year or two?
Well, I think when you look, we certainly need front line depth. You know, I mean, we still got bodies there. We got a lot of things developing there. How it develops this year, you don't know. So for Elijah, and that he's a little older because, you know, he repeated, he's a prep guy. But when you lose Connaughton and Grant, any perimeter guy you sign should say, man, there's an opportunity there. Both those guys leave. Yes, we have good young perimeter guys in our program, but I think Ryan and Pfluger were able to look and go, hey, you know what? They're losing 2 guys that are playing 30-some minutes a game, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Both those guys will have chances. I mean, you know, I'm looking at them as impact guys as freshmen.
Like, have you found any recruiting draw in having Demetrius here, a young point guard who's going to be taking things over for the next few years?
Yeah. I think there still was a respect for him, even though as a freshman he didn't have a great year, but I think people remembered him, but what helps is when they come on the visit and get to play pickup with him for 2 days, I think they're looking and it's confirming a little bit like, wow, that's a pretty good point guard to play with, and certainly as we've seen in the exhibitions, I think he's really trending the right way for us.
Like, how important was it to get a guy in Matt Ryan where you identified him early as a main guy, and he stayed a main guy for you, and then you get him as the first recruit?
Yeah, that's one of those where you spend that much time on it and you don't get him, you feel like, God, we really invested a lot. We hung in there. I mean, I remember the night I offered him a scholarship up at King of Prussia in July. He was a rising junior. He came off the bench playing with the older guys. They moved him up, and he made like 3 threes in 4 minutes to bring them back to win the game, and he's shooting over the top of people, and I'm envisioning all those guys I just mentioned in my program knocking down big ones, and I remember how excited he was the first conversation I had that Notre Dame offered him a scholarship for an Irish Catholic family. I think it meant a lot. It was really powerful, and it was a matter of him, I think it was a matter of him being able to concentrate on his recruiting. I think he was very distracted with his health. And fortunately, as our doctor said, he said, hey, that's full recovery. Don't change your philosophy with him because that's full recovery.
What was it about Elijah that allowed you guys to connect without him even making I know he made his official visit, but that was after he committed.
Right. I got in there. Anthony did a great job of getting me in there quickly in April to go to the school. Now, Elijah, too, is a guy well-coached, really well-coached. Blair Academy, like Mater Dei, heck of a program, developing guys. They got a heck of a team this year, and was able to watch a workout and offer him right there. And I think the coach has seen our program, has respected how we've done things, and he was the one, as the conversations throughout last winter was like, this would be a great one for you guys. How you play, how Mike does things, as he was talking to Anthony, your friend, and the Ty Nash comparison kept coming up. He'd be great for you. And he played for the Albany City Rocks, and the AAU guy there also, I think, has a respect for how we do things. So felt it was a good fit. He's a great student. But I think what you'll really be impressed with is how he passes the ball. He's really fun to play with as a big guy. He sees the floor.
High school senior bigs still an option in the spring?
Yeah. Yep. Still chasing high school senior bigs, no question. We'll keep looking, and you never know. Does another senior emerge? Matt Farrell emerged in January, February, and we feel that's a good investment for us.
Rick Pitino said last month about the whole recruiting pool that he has to choose from, being an Adidas school and everything, has impacted his recruiting. Does that impact Notre Dame as far as Under Armour and shoe companies and kids that you can or can't go after?
We've never, I've never seen it that way, because I think, like the clientele that we connect with, the kids that want to come here, the shoe company stuff will be very secondary to the total package here. Every guy in that locker room for me wanted a degree from here. So the education and the academic side of it probably trumps some of that. Now, there is some, minefields to get through sometimes if you're recruiting guys from a different, shoe company. I'll say this, I'm very excited about the ammunition Under Armour has given us. They are very powerful in the grassroots level, and I've seen our vibe be even stronger with the junior class, with that they're powerful with grassroots, and also that kids are attracted to them. It's a sexy product to wear, and the shoes have really closed the gap. So I do like our relationship with Under Armour to help us in recruiting. They are very aggressive at the grassroots level. And, in this college basketball world of recruiting, you need all the ammo you can get in this thing.
Not right away, but does who are you affiliated with? Does that come up with kids? Like, are you Adidas? Are you Nike? Are they interested in that stuff?
I think what they are. Oh, absolutely. Kids are very aware of what you're with, but with this group that we recruited and signed today and the group we're recruiting now, let's just take this group, these 3 guys we signed today. I would say early in the conversation, either with a parent, like, oh yeah, you guys are with Under Armour. Like, wow. It was very like, wow, that's really cool. You're going with Under Armour. Yeah, I wore that and when I played for this team, or, everybody likes that. I love their stuff. So that has been a real positive.
Any other questions about?
About recruits? No.
Yeah. Turn our attention to Binghamton.
Yeah, I think with Binghamton, first of all, a lot of respect, and Tommy Dempsey, the coach, is a good friend. He used to come out here and watch us practice all the time, and he's kind of paid his dues as a coach. And he's in a rebuilding mode there at Binghamton. But I love his group. Watching them yesterday, they're a talented offensive team. They play fast, and they have the ability to make shots. They have a lot of guys that can spread you and make 3-point shots. That's always a recipe for a problem when you're playing a team. It doesn't matter if it's a team from a mid-major conference or an ACC foe. Shot-making ability in the 3-point arc. So we really have to be aware of that. I think with our paying more attention to pressuring the ball and contesting, we're out on people a little bit more, and that can help us. But they've got some really good young kids that I think are developing. They've got a few experienced guys that were very good players in the America East, my old league when I coached at Delaware. And, on any given night in college basketball, you have to be ready to go.
How excited is the team just to get a regular season one going?
Yeah, and I think the team's really excited that we have a lot of games coming now, and they don't have to practice as much. Because you think about it, this team has practiced a lot, starting with the 10 practices in preparation for Italy. We've been together a lot, and it's been great. We've needed every darn one of them. But now it's time to get some games coming at you and evaluate your group and substitution patterns and all those things. So I love the fact that we play Friday and turn right around and play Sunday.
And I know you spoke glowingly about Demetrius. It seems like you think this is a breakout year for him.
I think he's really coming. He doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders. He doesn't have to carry us. We've simplified the role, pressure the ball, and he's done a fabulous job of unselfishly doing that, and that's exhausting, and just run our team. I think an area where we've really talked to him about is really concentrate on being good with the ball, kind of limit turnovers. And I think that's a work in progress. But I think, as you've seen in the exhibition games, he's very, very comfortable in his role. He's very comfortable playing off of Jaron, Steve, and Pat on the perimeter.
You talked after the first exhibition about how you needed the next couple of weeks to, if you were going to change anything, if you're going to tinker with stuff. Do you just ride out these first 16 days because you don't get a lot of practice time to kind of tinker with stuff?
Well, we do have really good students. And, every time we've introduced something, we've been able to carry it over. I don't think we've really made any wholesale changes. Our lineup is going to be the same tomorrow night that it was for the exhibition games. So, it's not been big differences there. But I think, yesterday we made some scouting report adjustments on how to guard a ball screen when the ball screener is a shooter and he steps back, because we'll play against a lot of those 4 men like Connaughton who can ball screen and step back, and if you hard hedge and you're late getting back, you're leaving a 3-point shooter open. And we looked a little bit at switching that so we wouldn't give up a clean 3-point look. Binghamton has 2 bigger kids that will stretch the defense like that. But other than that, it's been kind of it's been the basic principles that we felt we had to start rebuilding when we only had 6 guys in the spring. A lot of that was ball screen defense and ball pressure, and rotating over to help your teammate. I think we've made progress in those areas. We still have a ways to go.
Make any different slant on a player or aspect of your team since prior to the 2 exhibition games?
Not really. I think, as far as coming off the bench, Beecham, Gebbin, Burgett, Colson have kind of been the four coming right now. Torres has been limited because of injuries, but yet we got to keep him engaged because I think there's a lot there and we're going to need everybody as the season goes. I've been really impressed with what Gebbin has given us in games and practice. He gives us a solid defender in there. He is a great screener, and he rebounds the basketball. One of the things I talked about was attacking a little bit more off the ball screen, like Demetrius and like Jaron. Go ahead and get in there, and you get fouled or go in and make a play a little bit more. And I think he's done that. But other than that, I think you're still just wanting to get familiar with each other.
I was asking about the demeanor of players. Gebbin, is that a pretty steady in the boat kind
Yeah,
of
I
guy?
love that. I love that demeanor because it's very steady. And whereas we know, even Zach has gotten better, but he can go on emotional highs and lows, and so Gebbin is a little bit of a rock that way, and Bonzi's kind of like that too. Our two freshmen, Beecham's pretty solid like that. I think one of the things I talked about this week was individual and group recovery from mistakes or missed shots or a bad call. I think we have growth in that area. We've gotten a lot better since we started this thing July 25th, but we still have growth in that area where we got to get on to the next play and, that type of thing.
Vulnerable to that, besides August.
I think everybody can have their moments that way. That's where I think we're still young. That's our biggest area of growth. And I talked about that a lot starting on Monday, and we're going to be put to the test, and then we're going to be put to the test on the road in a week, and who are we going to be?
When you look at your bench situation with all these guys kind of in the mix, do you see it kind of calling down at some point, or do you see all these guys figuring in at one point?
They may not all figure in on a given night, but I think it's important for me and the coaching staff to keep everybody engaged for 5 months, because I just think we're going to need everybody. And I didn't mention Matt Farrell, but that includes Matt Farrell. I think we need to keep everybody engaged. So, we're not thinking about redshirting anybody. All hands on deck this year.
Is that easy to throw out there, given what happened last year? Where last year at this time, you didn't think it was going to be Vistori, you didn't think it was going to be Beecham, and then look what they did as freshmen.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, and I think given that we're trying to bounce back and what we did together in the summer, it's like, everybody's active this year. Like, I need everybody. And then as coaches, it's up to us to keep those guys engaged when maybe they haven't played much in a month, because, an injury, whatever, it can come back around and all of a sudden you're in there. So I think that's the vibe of this group.
Like with some of the challenges you had last year, you had guys that had to get minutes, went through some experiences they might not have had until this year. It's time to benefit from that a little bit this year.
I would, Bob, like to see that pay off. I think I said it at times down the stretch last year. Our young guys had to play too much, but they did get to play. And I think we are benefiting from some of that Jackson was in there. Wasn't always great, but he was in there. Beecham was in there. Bastoria was really in there. And August was in there. So those guys, it's not like we're asking them to come out of nowhere to do more for us. They were part of it. You add Italy to that, and I feel we have some guys that can really grow, can help us more and are confident to do it because they got a taste of it.
You mentioned Farrell. If Demetrius goes through moments where he's struggling a little bit, is Farrell the first alternative, or is Jaron Grant the first?
When we substitute, we substitute and we kind of come back around, almost like Bastoria handling the ball when he's on the floor and Demetrius isn't. Most of the time. But there's times when we'll let Jaron have it. But you do have two ball handlers there before you get to Farrell. That's how we've worked in practice and in the two exhibition games. But I usually get Bastoria out first in a perfect night, and him, and then he comes back around for Demetrius, and then we like him to enter the ball and keep Jaron coming off stuff. But as you know, some of our sets and some of our entries, Jaron needs to have it right away and attack a ball screen.
Beyond the box score of the first two exhibitions, what is it about Vistoria that says he's fine? I know he hasn't scored it, but
Yeah.
he's good.
I just, first of all, he's just so good defensively. Individually, guarding his guy, and team defense helping out. He just knows how to move in our offense. If you watch him, some of the best cuts in our offense are his cuts. And they probably, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, they're not for scores. They just clean out a side for somebody to fill in. We want him to shoot the ball. I think he's going to be a heck of a percentage shooter from the three-point line. We want him to drive it a little bit more. He's a good screener. He's just easy to play with on both ends of the floor. And, it's kind of like, I just don't want to overreact, and he's going to be in there, and it's going to come around to him.
Thanks, guys.